When I think back to that Halloween night, I can still feel a chill running down my spine. Despite being all in good fun and candy, it ended up being a nightmare come true. I was dressed up in my spooky costumes, along with my two friends, Jack and Sarah. Jack dressed up as a spooky clown, Sarah dressed up as a witch, and I was a mummy. We reasoned that there was no risk in trick-or-treating in our peaceful neighborhood. The air was crisp and the leaves crunched beneath our feet as we strolled down the dimly lit streets. Dark shadows were cast by the moon, which was low in the sky. We believed it to be the ideal setting for some frights this Halloween. We then came across him. In the shadows, there was a figure wearing a twisted, monstrous mask. It appeared as though it were taken directly from a horror film. Uncomfortability was beginning to creep in, and my chest was pounding. Thought it was just another neighbor trying to frighten us. We dismissed it nonetheless. However, we couldn't get rid of the feeling that the masked man was following us as we carried on our mission for candy. We might catch a glimpse of him in a distant yard or see him emerge from behind a tree. It resembled him engaging in a bizarre version of hide and seek. Our laughter turned into tense whispers as the atmosphere grew more tense. We made the decision to return home, thinking that would end our eerie encounter. But when we turned around, the masked man was standing just 5 feet away and was there. His mask was terrifying. It was twisted and sinister, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare right through us. "You can't escape," he said after a moment of silence in a raspy, icy voice. We were frozen with fear, and before we could respond, he lunged at us. Jack attempted to fight him off, but he was faster and stronger. It resembled a graphic horror movie scene. In an instant, Jack screamed in pain as a mask-wearing man raised a knife. Sarah and I fled for our lives, while our hearts felt like they were about to break. We felt shivers run down our spines as we heard Jack's cries from behind us. We had no idea what to do or where to go. We stumbled upon a neighbor's home and banged on the door while crying. We were allowed inside by the gracious elderly lady who lived there, and we dialed 911. Waiting for them to show up seemed to take an eternity. We gave them a description of the masked man when they eventually did. However, it was too late. In the wake of a Halloween horror, I could only have imagined in my worst nightmares, Jack was no longer there. The sense of hopelessness and dread that Halloween night brought is something I still struggle with today. I'll never forget the terrifying words the masked attacker whispered as he attacked. He still stalks my dreams to this day. Halloween will never be the same for me again because he left me permanently scarred. It was Halloween night, and my family and I were preparing to curl up for a cozy evening of scary movies and sweets. Like every other year, we had carved our pumpkins and hung some spooky decorations. We had no idea that this Halloween would be exceptional. We heard it, a faint scratching sound at the back door. We were all huddled on the couch, engrossed in a corny horror movie. We all listened in silence as my dad paused the movie. It appeared as though a lock-picking attempt was being made. My mother muttered, "Did you hear that?" as my heart beat like a jackhammer. I muttered, "Yeah," while attempting to control my voice. Perhaps it's a stray cat or something, but I had a gut feeling it wasn't a cat. Slow and deliberate scratching kept going on. Being the brave man that he is, my dad crept to the back door to peep through the blinds. He was horrified by what he witnessed. 3 shadowy appearing individuals with masks covering their faces and dark clothing were present. They were playing around with some lock-picking equipment while attempting to break into our home. "Call 911 right away," my dad yelled as he hurried back to us. While my dad looked around for a weapon, my mother grabbed her phone and started making calls. The fear overcame my younger sister, who began to sob. Despite my best efforts, I was unable to comfort her because of my own fear. The robbers were acting more violently outside. They stopped trying to be sneaky and started pounding on the door, pleading with us to let them in. Fear was engulfing my entire body, and my heart was racing. Although the police said that they were en route, it seemed like hours passed before we heard the distant sirens. It's likely that the robbers heard them as well, because they sped off and vanished into the Halloween night. The police came, took our statements, and searched the area afterward. However, They did discover some of the robbers' abandoned tools while searching for the robbers. These guys appear to be experts. Halloween had evolved into a real-life horror show, but we were still safe. We remained awake the rest of the night, unable to fall asleep, and simply thankful that we were fine. We would no longer experience Halloween the same way. I was out and about with my friends, all decked out in our gothic attire and prepared to gorge on candy. Going from house to house, laughing and stuffing our faces with sweet treats, we were having a blast. We heard rumors about a sinister man prowling the area as the night wore on. He was reportedly acting strangely, wearing a mask and giving everyone the creeps. However, we disregarded it, reasoning that it was simply Halloween marketing. We made the choice to visit the residence at the end of the street. The decorations were the most spooky, so we assumed the candy would be the best there. When we arrived, we saw a man standing by the door wearing a mask. He was wearing a scary clown mask, making it difficult to see his face. For her Instagram, one of my friends, Sarah, wanted to take a photo with him. He stood there and just looked at her as she approached him. I had a bad feeling, but I didn't want to scare everyone, so I kept quiet. As our friend Mike was about to snap a photo of Sarah posing next to the scary clown, the clown grabbed her arm. We were scared because it happened so quickly. The man began dragging Sarah in the direction of a nearby dark alley after Sarah screamed. Despite our panic, Mike and I were able to grab Sarah and take her away from the crazy clown. But because he was strong, he persisted in attempting to drag her back. I was frightened out of my mind as Sarah cried. Thankfully, a few nearby residents heard the commotion and came running. When they began screaming at the man, he eventually released Sarah and fled into the shadows. We shook like leaves and were all in shock. We gave the police a description of the unsettling clown before they arrived. They promised to do their best to find him, but cautioned us to use caution and stick together. We just wanted to get home safely that night. We didn't care about candy or costumes any longer. It was a Halloween we'd never forget, and it served as a lesson about how some people might use the occasion to commit wrongdoing. We may never have learned who the psycho was, but I do hope he received justice. A few years ago, on a Halloween night, I had a terrifying experience that still gives me the chills. My friends and I were out exploring our sleepy little neighborhood. We were all in a good mood. There was a definite spookiness in the air. I had no idea that things were about to take a sinister turn. With its rusted gates creaking unsettlingly in the wind, we stumbled upon a spooky abandoned carnival. The area had been abandoned for a long time, but tonight it seemed to come to life. A lone, unsettling figure with a painted face, peeking out from beneath an oversized frayed red wig, stood beneath a flickering marquee. The clown. I initially believed it to be a simple Halloween joke. What are the chances of meeting a real clown on Halloween night, I thought. But as we got nearer, my heart sank. Not just a random man in a costume either. He had a twisted, repulsive clown makeup. His eyes were pits of evil, dark. I then heard it coming from the darkness, muffled wails, then frantic cries for assistance from a woman. We looked into the shadows and saw a woman bound to a dilapidated Ferris wheel. Her face was splattered with tears as her terrified eyes locked onto us. Unable to move, she was bound and gagged. The clown had a beaming knife in his hand and was beaming from ear to ear. His laughter was a maniacal cackle that resounded throughout the deserted carnival grounds. My friends and I were frozen with fear. With his blade glistening in the moonlight, the clown approached the woman. I lost all patience when he brought it closer to her throat, and my heart stopped. My hands shook as I reached for a nearby plank and used it as a weapon. Everyone else did the same. We rushed the clown and pummeled him to the ground with a loud collective scream. The lady was saved during the ensuing chaos. Soon after the police arrived, the clown was taken into custody. He was revealed to have committed a string of horrific murders, all on Halloween night. I couldn't help but feel that Halloween had revealed its true, terrifying face at night as I walked away from that nightmare. The incident still lingers in my mind as a reminder that evil can hide in the most unlikely places, including beneath a clown's mask.